Hey gardeners, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be covering 3 fertilizers you should use in your garden. So let's jump right into this video. So coming to our very first fertilizer is the Espoma Organic Biotone Starter Fertilizer. So you may be wondering, why is this fertilizer important? Out of all the 3 fertilizers I'll be showcasing in today's video, if you're an ornamental gardener, this is the fertilizer that you will be using the most. Especially if you're doing many plantings throughout the year, this will be your best friend. You might be wondering, why is it so special? Well, it's in the name. A biotone starter fertilizer is a fertilizer made for plants that are just beginning. So newly planted annuals, perennials, anything you could think of, you would sprinkle a handful of the biotone starter fertilizer into the hole and then plant the plant. Something that this fertilizer provides that are ideal for plant success is nitrogen and phosphate. So this is just a great beginner fertilizer that will allow your plants to grow quicker, better, and more efficient in their new habitat. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to be planting some Buddleias or some butterfly plants. If you haven't seen my video that I released yesterday, make sure to go watch it as I cover 12 plants that are best fit for the summer heat. And one of those plants are Buddleia because they're drought tolerant, they sustain our high levels of heat and humidity, and they provide such a beautiful show of color throughout the year. So that's why I'm deciding to plant 2 in my garden. So I'll be planting this today. Now, something you must keep in mind is after planting your plants, you want to make sure you well water it, as that's how the fertilizer is activated. So let me bring you a little bit closer and let's plant this Buddleia. So a few more details on the Espoma Biotone Fertilizer. So one of the first things I should definitely mention is that it does have a smell to it. The majority of the fertilizers that are really good and organic will have a smell to them, as that is the best sign of organic fertilizers, that they are rich in nitrogen and phosphate. And I've been a huge fan of the entire Espoma line, and I've made a couple videos on their fertilizers before, including citrus tone and plant tone. Plantone's a great general fertilizer. However, I do have a substitute for that one that I'm using now. That's a bit more affordable, because fertilizer, something that I look at as well, is how pricey they could be. So Espoma Organic, so I paid $13 for this bag of fertilizer. Not that bad, especially for the good quality of fertilizer that it is. Totally worth it. Now, something that I would recommend is that if you cannot get Espoma Organic fertilizer, make sure you go ahead and do your research and see what fertilizer works best for you as a beginner fertilizer. Make sure that it has good levels of nitrogen and phosphate, as those are the 2 main ingredients plants need to thrive. So the next fertilizer we'll be discussing about is my all-time favorite, Earthworm castings. So Earthworm castings is an organic fertilizer once again. So this is the actual alternative I found to the Espoma Organic Plantone. Although it is an amazing fertilizer as well, I have now leaned towards Earthworm castings. Earthworm castings are way more affordable, so this bag is $10, and it varies depending on the brand you use. I use either the STA Green brand or I use the Vermistera brand. Usually I use the Vermistera Earthworm Casting Tea products, and then the Earthworm castings I use the STA Green. But 2 great products, 2 great brands, and both are quite affordable. Not to mention they're packed with nitrogen, they're packed with phosphate. It's manure, it's organic material, so it'll be great for your garden, especially if you're an organic gardener and you grow your own food like myself. This is technically black gold for your garden. So I have this raised bed right behind me in which I planted purple tomatillos in. As made a video on this one as well when I removed the big Jamaican strawberry tree behind me. And so the seedlings are just starting to come up and emerge from the raised bed. So I'm gonna just go ahead and sprinkle a little bit of this earthworm casting over the top of it. And when it rains, which it should be in a few minutes, it will go ahead and activate the earthworm castings. So this is the greatest general feed that I found. It is very powerful. It works very efficiently, especially if you have a food forest like myself. This is the plant fertilizer you want to use. So let me go ahead and show you how I will be applying this fertilizer into this raised bed. So here's the fertilizer. I will get a handful of the fertilizer and just start sprinkling all over the raised bed. So another good recommended tip is to make sure you water this very thoroughly after feeding it, so then that the earthworm castings could be activated and start mixing into the soil and feeding your plants. Once again, this is a highly recommended feed that you should have in your garden as well. So coming to our third feed, I want to think it more as an amendment to your soil is compost. Compost is always an amazing thing to have to amend into your soil, especially if you are a organic gardener or if you're a gardener that grows food. The reason why I want to classify it as a amendment more than a fertilizer is the reason why the nutrients that are built up in the compost will take longer to release. Of course, you can still use it as a feed by feeding your perennials, as well as if you have fruit trees, putting a ring around the soil and mixing it in. It's still considered a great feed. However, it's still considered more as an amendment because you mix it into the soil before planting your plants in. They still offer high levels of nitrogen, potassium, phosphate, all that good stuff will be built into compost. And imagine it more as a slow feed, as over the years it will start releasing those nutrients into the soil and start feeding your plants. But I still recommend having a composting bin because it's super fun. It's a great activity you could do with kids as well. And it's great to incorporate food scraps into your garden so they don't go to waste. Especially if you have fruit trees or fruiting plants, compost is the best for it. So leave me in the comment section down below, what fertilizers do you use and which one's your personal favorite? Make sure to leave a like underneath this video and subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Thank you all so much for watching this video. May God bless you and your entire family, and never forget to grow big, ultimate gardeners. Bye everyone.